All right, everybody, welcome back and welcome all. It is From the Pocket coming at you with another big episode. That is right. We have 4 weeks until the NFL draft. So we're now pivoting right off of free agency, and we're basically going to just be a draft show for the next month. We're going to be going through all the team's draft needs. We're going to be going through some of my favorite prospects. We're probably not going to hit every position group, but to be honest, I don't really care about hitting every position group. But I did want to just go through kind of the top prospects at each of the key position groups I feel like this draft offers. A lot of great linebackers, a lot of great safeties, a deep tight end class, really good wide receiver class. Want to go over the offensive linemen, the cornerback. So probably going to skip like the running backs because it's a very weak running back class. You need to know about Jeremiah Love, and you're kind of good. There's a couple other guys down the way if you want to get a little more knowledgeable about that position group, but like you're really going from Jeremiah Love to like day 2 picks, probably day 3 picks. That's really it. So, and then the quarterback class outside of Ty Simpson and obviously Fernando Mendoza, who's going to go first overall. I just Garrett Nussmeier, I just do not have that much interest in the quarterback class. You're not going to see more than 2 starters maximum come out of this class, and I'm skeptical about the second one. So, yeah, I mean, over time, we're going to kind of figure out what that's going to look like. Again, 4 weeks left until the draft. And then the week of the draft, that Monday before, that's when I'm going to come out with my my mock draft for round 1. Going to go through and pick all the ways I think the team should go with their round 1 pick. And then that Thursday, it's going to be a live episode. We are going to record live in action, reacting to the draft in real time. So I'm very excited about that. It'll be our first, I think, really our first live stream since the draft last year, and you know we've gotten a little bit more of an audience since that has happened. So I'm curious to see how it's going to go, how many people might actually watch. So without further ado, though, let's get into today's episode. Today we are starting our breakdown of draft needs by team. And we're going to start with the NFC. We're going to go through all the NFC teams, talk about where they're picking, namely in the first round, but, you know, also talking about what options they might have in some of their day 2 picks as well. I'm not going to get super in-depth. I'm not trying to go through and pick a 7-round, class for them, but just to kind of get some ideas of like where I think they could go, what could be available to them, where maybe they fell short of in free agency, and what I think they need to be prioritizing. And we're going to do NFC today. We're going to do AFC on Thursday's episode, so check that out. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and dive into it here. We're going to take it division by division. We're going to go ahead and start with the NFC West. The NFC West, to me, is a very interesting one. One, because the Cardinals are picking 3rd overall, so they're going to have one of the premier picks of the draft. But then the other piece of it too, the Rams are picking 13th overall. You know, they made that trade last year with the Falcons. Falcons traded up and drafted James Pierce with that pick. Rams pocketed that pick, traded away their actual pick, the 29th pick, and they're picking in the top half of the draft. So that's very interesting. And then, the 49ers and the Seahawks. Seahawks are obviously picking 32. The 49ers are picking 27. So they're probably not going to get those blue chip guys that at least the Cardinals and potentially the Rams get, depending on who falls to the Rams. But still interesting. So to just start at the top, we'll go with the Cardinals here. They went 3-14 last year. They are picking 3rd overall. And the Cardinals are in step 1 of what I think is going to basically be a total rebuild. And there's a real chance that this isn't even step 1 for them, right? This could be like step 0, because I think there's a very good chance that you are looking at the team that could be the worst team in the NFL next year. They could very well be picking 1st overall. They are in arguably the hardest division in the league, and all 3 of their other rivals are going for it. Right, the Rams are obviously going for it. Seattle's the defending champs. The 49ers are consistently going for it. They're always in that conversation. So the Cardinals don't have a quarterback right now. They have Jacoby Brissett and Gardner Minshew. They have some defensive pieces. I think a lot of people forget how many defensive pieces they have. They signed a lot last year, and they have done a good job at collecting draft picks at the defensive side of the ball, but just too many injuries. Haven't had the opportunity to really assess how those signings and draft picks have looked because of their injuries. So they could have a little more talent on the defensive side than we maybe give them credit for. But nevertheless, I mean, they still need edge. They still need linebackers. I think if I had to guess, they could go like a Sonny Styles. I feel like the consensus is they're going to go offensive linemen. They're going to take the best offensive linemen in the draft according to their own grade. We know where the Raiders are going. The Jets seems to be pretty unanimous that they're going to take an edge player, whoever that edge player might be. Arvell Reese, David Bailey. I don't think Ruben Bain will go that high, but Ruben Bain is a very popular pick among a lot of people. I feel like that's going to set the Cardinals up to really have their pick of the litter at any position not named edge. Maybe they pick, maybe if they have Arvell Reese graded as the top guy, right, and the Jets go and take David Bailey, they might take Arvell Reese. But I think it's a safe bet that they will probably go offensive line. And either way, like, they can't go wrong. Like, they need all of those things. So that's really where I think the Cardinals could land. Yeah, I'm curious to see where they land in reality, but I feel like that is a pretty safe bet there. And we move on to, I guess to put a bow on it, I know they're not going to get Jeremiah Love. I know some people are saying that could happen. They could shock it. They're not getting Jeremiah Love. I think the most shocking pick they could make is Sonny Styles at 3. This was the team that drafted Isaiah Simmons all those years ago. I know it's a different front office, but like, Isaiah Simmons and Sonny Styles kind of have similar comps, if you will, whereas Isaiah Simmons was this really just massive, hyper-athletic guy that you could put all over the field. Sonny Styles is kind of like that as well, but Sonny Styles is a lot. He's a football player. Like, I think that's really where Isaiah Simmons struggled. Isaiah Simmons was this hyper athlete that you're like, I can put him on a football field, but it's like, okay, just because you're a hyper athlete doesn't mean you're a football player. At least not at the high professional level. I feel like Sonny Styles is Isaiah Simmons with the football mindset, if you will, for lack of a better way to put it. So they could shock everybody and take Sonny Styles, but like, I think they're gonna probably stick to either their top edge if the Jets don't take their top edge, or they'll just go offensive line. But again, can't go wrong with any of those picks. As long as they don't pick like Jeremiah Love, I'm not going to hate what they do. Or Caleb Downs. Like, that'd be a weird pick too, but they're not picking Caleb Downs at 3. Okay. Let's go on to the Rams. The Rams, I'm so excited to see what the Rams do because they could go literally everywhere with this. I really think for the Rams, it's gonna be them picking the best player available because they could draft an offensive lineman, and build that offensive lineman up for the coming years. Maybe get the tackle that they like or something to kind of store them away or have them in rotation. Maybe bump them into guard or something. They've been in the market to maybe, it seems, get a receiver. They've been in talks about A.J. Brown, maybe moving off of Devontae Adams, trying to figure out what their future plan looks like for that. At the 13th pick, there's a good chance that they could have their pick of the litter at receiver. So if they really like a Mekhi Lemon, if they really like a Carnell Tate, and they happen to still be there, I wouldn't hate them picking that either. So I really don't think the Rams can miss anywhere they go. I think they're going to just pick their best player. It's very hard to predict, but I think they're going to pick the best player available, and it'll probably work because they do such a good job of drafting. Whether that is an edge rusher that just helps you build depth at your front line, whether that is drafting a receiver for the succession plan of post Devontae Adams, whether that's drafting an offensive lineman and just shoring up that side of your ball to protect Matt Stafford and whoever comes after Matt Stafford for years to come. Like, I don't think you can go wrong with it. So, Rams, kind of the wild card of this first round. I have no idea where they're going to go. And then let's talk about the 49ers. 49ers, I think they're going to have to go either along the offensive or defensive line. I don't see them using another first-round pick on a receiver. They just did that a couple of years ago with Ricky Pearsall, and I know, at some level you're having to pick for need, but I really think that's where, they went and added Christian Kirk, they went and added Mike Evans, and I think the reason they made those moves was to make sure that they weren't needing that later in the draft. I really do think they're either going offensive line or defensive line. They're going to get healthy on the defensive line. They've added a couple pieces. Osa Odigizua is there. They still have Michael Williams. Nick Bosa is still there. But when the 49ers were kind of at their peak, maybe that's not true. 2023, their defensive line wasn't incredible. But we remember back in 2019 when they were just this ferocious front. And their secondary was not even very good, but their front four were so talented and so filled with just blue chip first round picks that just nobody could stop them. And if the 49ers can get back to some semblance of that, this was one of the worst pass defenses in the league last year in terms of pass rush. I think the 49ers would love to take that opportunity. And this is a deep edge class. It gets a little iffy in the middle of the first round. If you're picking 15, it's kind of tough to get an edge rusher there that you find value in, right? But at 27, there's probably going to be a real opportunity for some valuable edge rushers that can really complement what the 49ers are doing. So I think they're probably going to go edge just based off the value of where I think they're going to be picking and what positions might be available. Offensive line is on the board too. I think it's going to be one of those. It just depends on how this Trent Williams contract shakes out. But I also think, something to keep in mind with the 49ers, this is not a team that has prioritized their offensive line with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. They drafted Mike McGlinchey all those years ago, and that's kind of it. That's kind of it. They obviously signed Trent Williams, but they are much more content signing Trent Williams, somebody like Trent Williams, which is everybody would love to have Trent Williams, and filling up their offensive line with, some mid-round picks, maybe some free agents. They're not in the business. This is not a team that has prioritized historically drafting offensive linemen with their early picks. Edge they have. They've done that a lot. So I think that's where I think they will land. They could. I'm not ruling it out, but that's where I think they'll land. And then Seattle. I really don't know what Seattle's going to do. Their biggest need is running back. They do not have a game plan, in my opinion, a good game plan as far as what they are going to do with kind of moving forward after they've lost Kenneth Walker. Zach Charbonnet is out. He's going to be out for at least probably the first month or two of the season. Even when he comes back, what is he going to look like? Their succession plan at running back is not good. And Jeremiah Love's not going to be there. So, there's not going to really be a running back that you can take with that first overall pick. I think they could try to go in their secondary. They need to replace some of the talent they lost in their secondary. Edge could be an option, but they're so deep at edge. And really, they lost Boye Mafe. And I'm not trying to downplay how important Boye Mafe was, but that just shows you the depth of how much talent they had, where it's I think they can lose Boye Mafe and still be fine, still get another edge rusher in the second or third round and be okay. I think they probably will go secondary here, maybe offensive lineman. They took Gray Zabel last year, try to continue building up that offensive line. There should be some decent value later in the first round. So I do like that. I think it's probably going to be one of those. Would love to see them get a running back, but I don't think they're really going to have the ability to do that. Okay. With all that said, let's move to another division that has some teams picking pretty high. The NFC East. We have the Giants picking 5th overall, the Commanders picking 7th overall, and the Cowboys picking both 12th and 20th overall. And then, of course, the Eagles are picking at the bottom of the first round. Not the bottom, but 23rd. So, yeah, just talk about the Giants here. Real talk. The Giants need some offensive line help. They probably need another receiver. They need some linebacker help. So I could easily, and they need corners. They need some secondary help. Now, I am curious to see. The Giants, to me, are a case study. They are a team to really pay attention to in terms of what direction the league is going, because I am of the opinion that a lot of these teams are looking at what the Bears did last year. Teams that are in the Bears or the Giants' shoes are teams similar to that, right? Where they have a young quarterback going into his second, third year, something like that, or even their first year if you're the Raiders, and trying to figure out, okay, how do we replicate what the Bears did, where they just said, look, we're not going to worry about defense. We're going to build our offensive line. We're going to have one of the best offensive lines in the league, and we're going to draft skill position players. We're going to go draft Colston Loveland in the top 10. We're going to circle back in the top of the second round and get Luther Burden. And we're just going to bolster, and we're going to go get Monungai later on in the draft and pair him with DeAndre Swift and just have the best rushing attack in the like. The Bears did everything they could to help Caleb Williams. We're going to help your offensive line. We're going to get you a great run game, and we're going to get you a ton of weapons to throw to. And I'm curious to see how many other teams take a page out of that. And the Giants are unique in that sense because, like, their defense is pretty decent. Like, in terms of the talent it has, yeah, would you love maybe, like, your linebackers are not great? Sure. Would you love maybe another piece or two in your secondary? Sure. But, like, you have passable talent, and you still have a really, really good, at least on paper in terms of the talent and the resources you've spent, a really good defensive line. So I would love the Giants here to go prioritize helping Jackson Dart on the offensive side. They already did that with Isaiah Likely, which I think is going to help them obviously run that 12 personnel. Malik Neighbors comes back. I think, you signed Illuminor to another extension. You have Andrew Thomas, so your tackles are set. So maybe here you could go offensive line, but I would love to see them. Full disclosure, if the Titans don't take him, I would love to see the Giants draft Jeremiah Love. I would love it. I've heard some Giants fans go, oh, but they have Scatabo. Stop. They do not have a running back in Scatabo. Scatabo is, I'm going to get you 2 or 3 yards. You cannot go into the season with Scatabo as your primary running back option. Scatabo is a pinch hitter. He is a day 3, does some things well. He is not the guy. He is not Jeremiah Love. If Jeremiah Love is sitting there for you, or a receiver is sitting there for you, like, you have to spend something on this pick to give Jackson Dart as much support as possible, whether that's another weapon to pair with Malik Neighbors and finish out your 12 personnel, or going to get Jeremiah Love. Now, there is a really good chance that the Titans draft Jeremiah Love at 4, so he might not be available. And if I would love to see them go receiver. Defensively, the only defensive player I would like to see them pick, which again very well could happen, is if they go Sonny Styles. If the Giants go Sonny Styles, fix their linebacking core, I'm not going to be mad, but I would like to see them prioritize helping Jackson Dart if the value is there. If it's not, I understand. I don't really want them to draft a corner like you could, but it's like, again, your corner, you're not totally lost on that side of the ball. You kind of are at linebacker, but I would much rather you prioritize your offense than your defense. And then Washington, it's hard to imagine they would probably, like, again, this could be a Sonny Styles landing spot. Some people are mocking them to get, like, either Reuben Bain or David Bailey. It could happen. I really think, again, go help Jaden Daniels. Go get him a weapon that he can throw to pair up with Terry McLaurin. You need to help that offensive side of the ball. It is not, you have Terry McLaurin, Chig Okonkwo, an injured Zachary. Like, you need some help on that side of the ball. And I think going to get another receiver, or maybe if the value is there, an offensive lineman, that's what I would like to see the Commanders do. They do have some gaps on the defense, but, like, they spent so much money on that side of the ball, and they got not amazing blue chip studs, but they got guys at every level. Odafe Owe is there now. They added Leo Chenal in the linebacking core. They added Nick Cross back there. Like, they added guys at basically every level. And I think given that, you prioritized your defense during free agency, go prioritize your offense. Go help Jaden Daniels. You need to help keep Jaden Daniels upright and not have as much on his shoulders, because we saw what happens when you put too much on his shoulders. He's probably going to get hurt. So that's where I'd like the Commanders to go. And then the Cowboys at 12. I don't know what combination is going to happen. We all know what the Cowboys need to do. Like, I don't need to spend that much time on it. They need defense. I would love to see them get a combination of an edge rusher and a corner. That's really it. Like, I think their linebackers are probably okay. I do love DeMarvion Overshone. I love Maurice. Like, I think they got some guys in their linebacking core, and this is a pretty deep linebacker class, so I wouldn't even mind circling back in the second round and getting your linebacker, but, like, you need help at edge. You were trying to get Max Crosby. You're trying to get Trey Hendrickson. At least allegedly, you couldn't do it, so go get an edge, and then if the value is there at corner, go get corner later, or, switch it up. If you can get the top corner in the draft at 12, or even a Caleb Downs, I wouldn't hate that. Caleb Downs is a little weird because you do have Jalen Thompson now, but if you can get your top corner, go get that, and then you probably get more value at edge later on at 20. So that's what I think the Cowboys are going to do, some semblance of that. I'm not breaking any news there. It's what everybody knows they're probably going to do. And then Philly. Same thing here, edge. It's going to be a repeated thing. You're going to see a lot of teams need edge rushers. They could go safety. Maybe there's just a safety there that Howie Roseman loves that everybody's sleeping on. I don't think Caleb Downs is going to be there. Dylan Thieneman could fall to them at 20. He's kind of everybody's second corner or second safety, and I imagine he'll probably get scooped up before that. But there's also not a ton of teams that need a safety. So I do wonder if maybe he falls to them and they take him and they feel good about it. But unless there's just no value to get there because there's been a run on them and they're at 23, the only thing we got is a day 2 edge rusher. I think they're going to try to take edge. They just need edge. Maybe offensive line just because Lane Johnson is getting up there and they need a succession plan for him. If they try to trade away A.J. Brown, maybe a receiver, but again, this is such a deep receiver class. You can get a receiver later on. I feel like the Eagles really need to address that edge. They obviously weren't even good last year at that. They got Jalen Phillips and he made them more competent, but now they've lost Jalen Phillips. It's okay, you have to have some type of pass rush. So I think they will go edge. Okay. That is the NFC East. Let's go ahead and go to the NFC North. Let's go to the North. So in the North, the first team picking will be, let me find it, the Detroit Lions at 17, and then we have the Vikings at 18. The Packers are not picking because they traded with the Cowboys, and then we have the Bears at 25. So 3 teams to go over here. We have we'll do the Lions first. Why not? Let's just do them. They're at the top. So the Lions picking 17th. Boy, see, again, this is one of those weird things where it's well, they obviously are going to take an edge. They need it. The offensive linemen are edge, right? It's those same needs. Their offensive line has been decimated over the past couple years. They lost Taylor Decker. They did sign Cade Mays. They signed a couple of other players along the line, but they do not have a great plan, I don't think, for their starting 5. That is a unit that is in need of some work. So I think they very well, that's probably where they're going to go is O-line. Everybody every year wants this team to take an edge rusher. And they're probably not. They took Aiden Hutchinson at the top of the draft, and since then they have just not prioritized taking edge rushers with high draft picks. I will also say the Lions are a little bit of a wild card. This was the team that a couple years ago took Jahmyr Gibbs and then Jack Campbell, and everybody went, "What are you doing?" And those turned out to be really solid picks. So, maybe the Lions are preparing for future years and they just surprise everybody like they tend to do. But I think they will go offensive linemen here. I think they need offensive linemen. I think they need to shore up that, whether that is taking somebody that they can maybe put at guard or tackle, trying to shore up the tackle, trying to maybe pick a guard and then kicking somebody out to I don't know what they're going to do, but they need some type of talent on that unit. So I think they're probably going to go offensive line. Would love to see them go edge and pair Aiden Hutchinson up with a running mate, but I think they're going to go offensive line. And I think that's probably the smart move given what the state of their team is. You have Jared Goff. Jared Goff is not good under pressure. You have to protect Jared Goff as much as possible. And when you have a running back like Jahmyr Gibbs, you have to do what you can to support that style of offense, which is basically kind of a run first offense to a degree. Go get an offensive lineman. Go rebuild that unit. That was the thing that made one of the things really that made the Lions such a dominant unit, a team a couple years ago, was that offensive line. So I would like to see them prioritize that. The Vikings, they will probably, I think, go safety. Their offensive line was really bad last year. A lot of people aren't really talking about that. They had one of the worst offensive lines in the NFL last year. So again, they could be a team that's primed to go offensive line. I don't think they'll go, NFL.com has their need listed as receiver. I know they lost Jalen Naylor, but I don't think they'll go receiver. They could go, a secondary player here, whether that's a corner or a safety would be good for them. This could be exactly where Dylan Tiananmen goes. They are the team that, I think Caleb Downs could very well go in that top 10. And I think Dylan Tiananmen could very well fall to the Vikings at 18. So that's kind of, if I was probably mocking it right now without, just kind of doing it in my head, that is where I would probably have the Vikings going. But they could take an offensive lineman. Maybe they feel like, no, it was a bad run last year, some injuries, but we are in good shape on the line. We have some good players. We did lose Ryan Kelly, but again, there's no centers in this, not at 18. There's three. I'm seeing people have 3 or 4 centers in the top 100, and I don't think any of them are first round grades. So I think if they do need offensive line, they may hold and wait and maybe get that in the second round where there's a little more value, and they may try to shore up that safety spot. Harrison Smith probably retiring, so you need probably some help in that secondary. I'll talk about the Packers really quick. They're not picking in the first round, but I would really like the Packers to. Again, another team offensive line. They lost a couple of offensive line. They lost Rasheed Walker. They lost Elton Jenkins. So that offensive line is going through a transition. They lost Romeo Doubs. So, and this has been a team that I think everybody loves the idea of the Packers receiving core, but it has yet to actually be a actual concept that works in practice. So I really don't, this is a deep receiver class. So maybe they try to get another receiver to replace Romeo Doubs. Maybe they feel like Matthew Golden's going to take a second step. They have Christian Watson as the number 2 explosive playmaker. And maybe they can supplement with Jalen Reed and stuff and be fine. They have a lot of great tight ends. So they may be fine on skill position players. They lost a lot of front 7 pieces, so you could see them target linebacker early on in the draft. It just, they lost Quay Walker. There's apparently, I hear rumors that they might move off of Lucas Van Ness. So if they do that, that's just another piece. They moved off of Rashawn Gary as well. I think at some point you might need to replenish that front 7 if you're Green Bay. But I look at the Packers and I say, honestly, if you just take the best player available, if you take even a secondary, your corners, I know a lot of people are kind of iffy even about their corners. So I really feel like they could just take the best player available. And I think the Packers could feel pretty good about what they're doing. And then we do the Bears. Safety. Safety and edge. That's where they need safety and edge. Offensive line, NFL.com has their biggest needed offensive line. I think their offensive line is fine. I think Garrett Bradbury is going to step right in for Drew Dahlman and be fine. I don't think they need a receiver at all, which is another need NFL.com is talking about. The DJ Moore trade does not scare me at all as far as their offense. They still have 2 very high-level receivers. I'm not worried about them getting a third when they have 2 really, really good tight ends and 2 really, really good running backs. I'm just not they are fine in skill position players. They need to hit defense. If this team is a team that we're considering a candidate to go all the way this year, they need defense. They need to get a safety. They need to get edge help. Their linebacking core with Devin Bush, I think, is going to be okay. And I do like some of their corner pieces. Kyler Gordon last year was awesome, and the packages they were able to run with him. Jalen Johnson is awesome as well. You get a safety, you get an edge piece, one or the other. I'm not going to hate whichever direction they go, just depending on what the value is. But that's basically where the Bears are going to go, in my opinion. I would bet money, if I could legally in Texas, that is where they will go. So okay, we have one more division. Maybe the worst division in the league, the NFC South. The Saints picking at 8. Popular landing spot for Jeremiah Love no longer. I feel pretty sure that they're going to probably go David Bailey here. If David Bailey falls to them or whoever, out of the big 3, right? Arvell Reese, David Bailey, Reuben Bain. I could see them taking a receiver. Again, they're kind of the Giants in that sense, right? Where it's like they got a young second-year quarterback, and we feel like we put some decent resources into our defense, and their defense last year was actually really good on the back half. I know a lot of people weren't talking about it, but they were a top 10 unit in a lot of statistical areas on the back half of last year. They could go edge, like that is a big need for them, but I kind of would like to see them take a receiver here and really help out Tyler Shuck. Like you went and got Travis Achan to be your running back. You have Chris Olave. Or maybe even a Kenyon Sadiq. Maybe they shock everybody and take Kenyon Sadiq. But like any weapon you can get to really help Tyler Shuck. Your offensive line is set. I think the Saints are going to have a top 10 offensive line this year because of the moves they made. They already had a pretty decent offensive line. Then they go get David Edwards, and it just is like, you're making this like not an elite line, but a really, really upper tier line. Go get a weapon to help Tyler Shuck now. Go finish that off. You've gotten him a run game. He's got a couple of pieces around him. Go get the best receiver in this draft. Again, the Commanders might take a receiver. The Browns might take a receiver. Even the Titans or the Giants might take a receiver. So, like, maybe we get to them, and it's like we've had a run on receivers in the top 10 already. I don't like my fourth receiver. Maybe they just don't think, like, Omar Cooper Jr. is worth the 8th pick. So maybe but, like, that's maybe where Kenyon Sadiq comes in, and you're getting that freak tight end that hopefully, if you're picking him at 8, is like a cornerstone player for you for years to come. So a lot of options for the Saints, but, again, I would love to see them support Tyler Shuck. And then we move on to the Bucs, who are 15th. Front seven. Again, like they're one of those teams. Very easy. Front seven. This team's front seven has been bad for 2 years now. It did not make hardly any improvements last year. I didn't feel they lost Jamel Dean, so maybe they feel like we need to replenish our secondary. Like they could go anywhere on defense, just depending on where the value is. I would love to see it be in their front seven ideally, but if there's just not the value there and they go get a cornerback or something, I'm not going to hate it. But like this team is going to prioritize defense. Like they need defense. Offense, they are fine. They have a really solid offensive line. Hopefully, we still have faith in Baker Mayfield, but we'll see. You have Chris Godwin. You have Emeka Egbuka. You signed Cade Otton, so you feel pretty good about him. You have Bucky Irving in the backfield. Like, you have weapons on the offense. Your offense is fine. As long as your offense is just not, pooping themselves, like, you're in good shape. Defensively, you need help. You need talent on the defensive side. You had needed it for a couple of years, and it has been a real challenge for you. So that's where I think they will go with the 15th pick. Panthers at 19. I think the temptation is for them to maybe go defense. They could use another secondary piece, but again, Bryce Young is, we can call it what it is. Bryce Young is a limited guy. He's limited. And they prioritized that last year. They've gotten a couple of first-round receivers in recent years. Last year, obviously, they got Tet McMillan, but obviously Xavier Legette a couple years ago, too. I would like to see them go, they could go offensive line. I thought they made some really smart value moves to shore up their offensive line. So I don't think their O-line is going to be as big of a deal as it might have been after the first wave of free agency ended or where we thought it was at. I would like to see them try to do something, though, to support Bryce Young, whether that is an offensive lineman. Maybe it is one more receiver. I don't know. There's a couple places they could go. I probably wouldn't be mad if they did go secondary, but looking at Bryce Young and the situation Bryce Young kind of leaves you in, I would really like it if they could try to prioritize helping him in any way they could. And then we have one more team, the Atlanta Falcons, who do not actually have a first-round pick because they traded it away. But the Falcons here, I really don't know what to make of the Falcons because, I look at the Falcons and I like a lot of their team. I like their front seven. I think they really did a great job of microwaving that last year and over the past 2 years, really, and kind of making that a more feasible unit. I think their secondary still has a lot of good pieces I like, and A.J. Terrell and Jesse Bates, who's, getting older but still a solid player. I like some of their weapons. They tagged Kyle Pitts. Their quarterback situation is obviously horrible. Their offensive line has lost some pieces, so maybe, you go offensive line. I don't really know where the Falcons go from here. I feel like the Falcons, if they're picking on day 2, it just depends. I have no idea where the Falcons are going to go. Like, it's really hard to gauge given that they're not taking in round 1, so it's just a matter of like what value is there when you are picking kind of in the middle of that second round. And it could be a couple of things. They could go a couple of different directions. Maybe they surprise everybody and take Ty Simpson. They did. People say that's silly, Jake. They did it with Michael Penix once. I don't know. The Falcons are a tough one for me, but that is it. That is the NFC draft team needs in a nutshell. This is just kind of scratching the surface of a lot of this. We're going to go super, super deep into this over the next month. I really can't wait. We're going to get into the prospects and kind of who fits what as far as what team needs are and what team schemes are, what they're asking for. So, it's going to be a lot of stuff. But tune in on Thursday. We're going to do this again, but with the AFC. So until next time, I love you. I cherish you. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for listening. Let me know how you think. Give me a like. Give me a comment. Give me a share. You don't got to be rude. If I say something dumb, I'm talking twice a week. I'm going to say some stupid stuff. So if I just give a take that's like objectively like, man, Jake, that's a bad take. Here's why. Like, let me know, but like, keep it civil. Don't be yelling at each other. Don't be calling people names. Like, I'm trying to keep a civil community here. So give me your take. Let's talk football. Let's just keep it real, but like, don't be rude to each other. So anyway, until next time, I appreciate you. Take it easy. Bye. See you Thursday.